Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to The Discriminating Gamer, the Elizabeth Salander of board game review shows. Except instead of helping people who suffered injustice through her hacking skills, I review board games. But we're both dangerous. Ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to go ahead and take a look at Sekigahara from GMT Games. In Sekigahara, the Unification of Japan from GMT Games, two players take on the rules of different forces battling for supremacy in the year 1600 in Japan. This, of course, is the Japanese Civil War that around the time of the shogunate, the Tokugawa shogunate, and who is going to actually ultimately emerge victorious in this contest is up to you. In board game form. So, ladies and gentlemen, how the game works is the game board is a map of feudal Japan. You'll notice there are a number of symbols next to spaces. There are also castles. There are supply centers. There's all sorts of kooky things going on with this board. Now, each side has a number of blocks, and each of these blocks, of course, correspond to different factions, different clans in Japan at the time. Now, some of these blocks will have kind of starting symbols on them that show where you place them to begin the game. Now, once you've placed all those things out there, you'll notice the board also has kind of a 7-week track. That's right, the game takes place over the course of 7 weeks, and each side gets to go during one of those weeks, so there are essentially 14 game turns in this game. At the beginning of the game, each player is going to draw 5 cards. They're also going to have, I believe, 4 block units in the reinforcements box that are going to come into play throughout the game. Then you're going to go ahead and draw up cards, and you're going to get bonuses and cards if you control more castles at that point. Now, on a standard game turn, you're going to discard half your cards, rounded up. You'll skip that on the first game turn, but then you're going to, of course, draw cards. You're going to get bonuses if you have more castles, and you're also going to reach into a bag and pull out more block units to place in your reinforcements pool. Now, when it is your turn, the first thing you're going to do is essentially buy movement. And there's different ways you can buy movement. You can spend cards to essentially get no movement, but you can discard and redraw as many cards as you like to form your new hand. You can also spend 0 cards to just move 1 stack of units. That's any number of units from one space to another, provided you're fitting in with movement restrictions. You can actually discard a card in order to move 3 different block units from different cities to different cities. You can move 3 times with those block stacks. You can also discard 2 cards to move all of the stacks on the board to different locations, and you can also use that to muster. Now, how you muster is you can take all of your blocks in the reinforcements box that have the same symbol and place them on the corresponding symbol on the board. Now, you have movement restrictions as well, as I mentioned earlier. You cannot move 2 armies down the same road. This kind of shows the logistical considerations of moving 2 armies down the same road, as though it's all happening simultaneously. You just simply can't get through the same path. But also, too, if you have if you're moving along a highway, you can move +1. If you have a leader with you, you can move +1. But the more stacks you have, it's going to restrict you. So the higher number of stacks you have, the less movement range you're actually going to enjoy with that stack. Now, once all your guys are moved, wherever your stacks are located with enemy stacks, you do combat, and you can kind of do those in any order that you choose. Now, how combat works in this system is you go ahead and you play a card with a symbol on it, a faction symbol. You can then take one of your blocks that has that symbol and put it out there. Now, the blocks themselves may just have one of those symbols, they may have 2, they may have 3, and essentially that is its power. The number of symbols on the block are its power, and you can go ahead and add that to your overall impact, which you track on an impact track. So both sides are going to do this. Both sides are going to be playing cards that match their blocks that they've got, and they put the blocks out there to increase their impact. They're also going to get bonuses if they have special units and you play the special card with the swords on it. If you have cavalry or if you have arquebus, you can go ahead and they will give you additional bonuses during combat to move your impact further up on the track. Now, one of the things that may happen during these attacks is one player may play a loyalty challenge card. If you play a loyalty challenge card, the other player who just played a card corresponding to a certain clan has to play another card of that clan, or else that clan essentially comes over to you and its strength adds to your own. It adds to your own impact. Now, it's not going to, of course, double up. It won't give you any of the bonuses, but it will give you that unit's strength. And critically, it will take strength away from your opponent. Now, essentially, blocks are destroyed by a factor of 7. Now, the loser is always going to lose a block, but you have to hit at least 7 impact points in order to force your opponent to lose one of an additional block. So, for instance, if your opponent comes at you with 4 blocks and you score 21 impact and you win, they, of course, are going to lose 1 block for losing and then 3 for each 7 impact points that you had. You can completely wipe them out that way. Now, both sides that lose units in that combat, they are going to be able to draw cards for that loss, so they will be able to get something back out of that exchange. Players can also conduct sieges against castles in which the defender will get a certain bonus. Now, the defender can come out and do a regular battle, or they can retreat into the castle, in which case there's a siege begins. Now, during a siege, only the attacker is going to be playing cards, but they have to be able to hit a magic number in order to destroy any of the blocks inside. Now, the two factions competing here are the Ishida in yellow and the Tokugawa in black, and they win in different ways. The Ishida is going to win if the Tokugawa block is destroyed. If ever the Tokugawa block is destroyed, then it is an instant win for the Ishida faction. Now, Tokugawa wins if he destroys the Ishida block, or if he can destroy a special disc on the board. Discs are also kind of add strength in battles. If he can destroy a certain disc, because there are 2 of them, if he can destroy one of them, the Totoyami disc, I believe, then of course that is an instant win for Tokugawa. At the end of 7 weeks, if none of the instant win conditions have been fulfilled, then players are going to add up points. Players get 2 points per castle and 1 point per resource location. Whoever has the most points at that point wins Sekigahara, the Unification of Japan. So I've got to tell you, this was a game that was not on my radar. As I mentioned before on the show, feudal Japan is not one of those historical eras that ever really captured my imagination. My brother speaks fluent Japanese. He's been there many, many times. My brother loves Japan. It was just never... Japanese history was just never something that captured my imagination the way it did for him. But I had heard this game was great. I have had in the last year, I have had a lot of people comment on YouTube and on Facebook and send me messages that Sekigahara is a game I needed to play, that I would absolutely love it. So I was really super excited to play it. I actually contacted GMT. I said, would you by chance have a copy of this? I'd love to review it. I know they were coming out with a second edition, but they said, yeah, we got a copy. We'll send it to you. I think they sent me the original edition, but I don't think there's any major changes there. They sent me that, and I was really excited. I called up my friend Alex, who's here in the PhD program with me, and he said, I've got this game. Come over, we'll play it. I'm like, oh, great. So I go over there, and I'm playing this game, and right off the bat, it's an interesting board, and that's something that always sucks you in. It's a great production. GMT they make fantastic productions. I love their game boards, the cards, card quality, card art, and just everything that went into this game from a production standpoint is first rate. I really like it. But I was drawn in because the map was cool, I thought. But I really like this card system, and I like this idea of the loyalty of the clans can be challenged, and you don't know if the clan that you're coming in with is going to support you ultimately if there's that loyalty challenge. And it's a fun little twist. It's a bluff and double bluff added into kind of an aggressive combat system, which I actually really enjoyed quite a bit. Gameplay actually really reminds me of like a Command & Colors game, like Command & Colors Napoleonics or Memoir 44, one of those. It reminds me of that because it's not just about the numbers. You can see a big hulking stack coming at you, but if your opponent doesn't have the cards to activate those blocks in combat, you don't have to worry too much, and so again, it's kind of bluff. How much strength do you have in your hand as opposed to just on the board? Because those blocks are next to worthless if you don't have the cards to activate them. So that is a very, very interesting system, and it gives you those tough choices that make me giddy. Really enjoyed kind of the combat system here. I thought it was first rate. I like too some of the little bells and whistles, the castles and how you could do sieges, and that was a way of kind of, if you're spreading yourself too thin, you could still have a chance to hold some territory if you could hole up in a castle for a time. You also have well, again, I was going to say the impact track is part of combat. The way that tracks combat there is really interesting too, and how you're just it's a numbers game, but there's so much in how you get those numbers there, and I like that a lot. And it wasn't just a determinative combat, deterministic combat. It was what cards do I have, and two, when you're in multiple battles, which battles are you going to need those cards in? Sometimes you'll need them in both, and you got to make again some of those choices. So it's very, very well done that way. You want to get those larger hand sizes. You want to get those bonuses to give you more cards, but you just sometimes you can't get them, and you're doing the best with what you got, just like a Command and Colors game. This game's got some meat on it. It's a good-looking game. It's an easy game to play, easy game to learn. It's got 2 player aids, which I always love. So each player has a player aid. I really like that. But more than all of that, it's just a well-oiled machine. It's just a smart game. I've got to admit, the game was talked up a little bit for me. I was expecting it just to be the greatest game ever of all time from the way people were talking, and I don't think it's that. But I think it is very good. I think it's a very, very well-done game. And there's nothing more to say except the recommendation for the discriminating gamer for Sekigahara, the Unification of Japan, is buy it. Thank you once again for joining us today on The Discriminating Gamer. As always, we ask you to please leave a comment for us on YouTube, on Wargame Geek, on our Facebook page, or on thediscriminatinggamer.com. We ask you to please like us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, and follow us on Twitter. We are The Discriminating Gamer, and ladies and gentlemen, we have something else here in common with Lisbeth Salander. We're both good looking.
Please somebody help me on my feet again, and I don't know where I'm going, and I don't know where I've been. Please somebody help me on the solid ground. It's a long time, and I'll be dying. Once a year I wind up in the band.
Here's another Perry Mason game.